the Mifkad place, was associated with a specific sacrifice called the sacrifice, or the burning, if you will, of the red heifer. And that particular sacrifice was called the Mifkad sacrifice. And you have to now begin to see, well, there must be a connection to this specific sacrifice of the red heifer and this gate, the Pekudei gate, because outside the gate, the red heifer was burned. And as we start looking at it tonight, before this is over, you realize that Yeshua fulfilled that sacrifice of the red heifer. Not understanding this, you could go back to Numbers 5 and Numbers chapter 19. If you've never went into the Old Testament and began to delve into these things, you'll miss it. Just if you're just a New Testament enthusiast and you never went back to that antiquated Old Testament, this will escape you, and you'll miss part of your redemption plan. The red heifer sacrifice was for cleansing and purging. Took the ashes of the red heifer, you took hyssop, you took water, and if you begin to look at it, it actually forms a caustic substance that you could today make soap out of. We used to make lye soap. That's exactly what was formed from that sacrifice when they were mixed and mingled together. It was used to cleanse the tabernacle from physical impurities, but it also had a spiritual application as well. Are y'all with me still? And even the rabbis would state today they never could understand the purpose of this. Solomon was said to have not been able to understand the purpose of the red heifer sacrifice simply because they can't see what you're about to see. They did not understand how the high priest could take this mixture, this caustic lye mixture, the ashes of the red heifer, the water and the hyssop, and mingle them together. This man is ritually, ceremonially pure, righteous before Yahweh. And when an individual who had some sort of contagion in his life, death, sin, whatever, would present himself to the high priest, and the high priest then would sprinkle this man, there would be a transference take place. This man's righteousness would then, the priest's righteousness would be imputed to the one that did not deserve it and had incurred sin and death in his life. And the one that has sin and death all of a sudden would become clean, while this one received the death in him. Sounds just like your Messiah, doesn't it? Isn't that powerful? Well, the sages don't understand the sacrifice that your Messiah, Yeshua, did for you, and so they can't see how he fulfilled this ceremony. But it's right here. This entire Torah portion deals with this ceremony, and that's why it's important for you to take the sum of the tabernacle. If you take the sum of something, that means you take the measure of it. Am I right? You begin to get an accounting of what's happening. You're taking the measure of it. You're breaking this thing down. You're taking a poll, a census, so that you can properly discover, ascertain, and understand. Well, this is exactly what's taking place. And I have found that if I had a specific subject that I wanted to indulge myself in, what I would do, then I go back and look in the Hebrew language and see where this particular word might have been mentioned. The word Pekudei, Mifkad, is mentioned in a number of places, but I want to focus on Nehemiah chapter 3, verse 31. Y'all remember Nehemiah? Do y'all remember at what stage in Israel's existence this was happening? You know, it was after the Babylonian captivity. They were coming out of captivity, right? Are y'all with me? Don't make me come where you're at. They were coming out of captivity. They'd been in bondage to pagan idols. For all intents and purposes, they had perverted themselves to all of these pagan trappings. Am I correct? They're released from that and being given an opportunity to go back and rebuild the tabernacle, the temple. Fast forward, Revelation chapter 18:4, speaking to you, says, "Come out of her, Babylon, my people." Why? I want you to set free from that bondage so that you can go back and rebuild the tabernacle. Wait a second, how does that connect? Didn't we just read in Exodus 38:21, he said, take the sum of the tabernacle? My goodness, that's because you're going to come out of Babylon. You're coming out now, and you're going to rebuild the tabernacle. Are we going to build that third tabernacle that we keep hearing talked about in Israel? Yes, you'll probably help build it, but that's not the one I'm trying to focus on. I'm talking this spiritual tabernacle known as the body, the man laid out on the earth of Messiah. That's awesome. Well, in Nehemiah chapter 3, verse 31, this is what's said. Are y'all enjoying yourself? After him repaired Malchiah, the goldsmith's son, and it tells you that he was actually charged with a specific area in the wall and gate where it had been neglected for generations, and every individual, every family was charged with a specific location. Would you like to know where your spot to repair is? Did you know tonight's Torah portion will tell you where you're supposed to go and repair and work? Did you know that Isaiah says that you're called to be a restorer of places to dwell in? That you're to be a repairer of the breach? My goodness, I wonder if that would fit in tonight's teaching. I believe it will. We'll look at it. In Nehemiah chapter 3, verse 31, it says, and after him repaired Malchiah, the goldsmith's son. Well, when I saw that, I said, wait a minute. It just jumped in and didn't identify this individual except by a personal pronoun. So I had to back up into verse 30 to see who the him was here. Are y'all with me? Maybe y'all don't study the way I do, but I'm very inquisitive, and I can't, if I see something there, I can't just leave it. I got to stop and go back. When I saw the word him, I said, well, I'm going to go back in verse 30 and see who it is. And it tells you, after him repaired Meshullam, the son of Berechiah, over against his chamber. Oh, so the verse 31, him, is talking about an individual called Meshullam. Well, do you know what the root of that word Meshullam is? Shalom. Shalom. The mem on the front of that means the source of origin, the place where peace was found. My goodness, wouldn't you like to have that for a name and be able to live that? You got problems in your life? Having turmoil? Enduring persecution and tribulation? Guess what? There's Meshullam over there. Go hang with him because he's the source of peace. And then all of a sudden, people come to you and you just say, peace, be still. Isn't that what you've been called to do? See how all of this is fitting together like pieces of a 1,000-piece puzzle. This will fit together before this is over with. He goes on to say, and after Meshullam, Malchiah repaired, and in case you wonder who Malchiah was, he was the goldsmith's son. And he repaired unto the place of the Nethinims. Now, I've got another name. I got to find out who these Nethinims are. And he repaired the place that was where the merchants were. Because, see, the Nethinims and the merchants evidently were close to this Pekudei gate. Are y'all with me? How do I know that? Would you like to have the answer? It tells you right there, over against the Mifkad gate. And to the going up of the corner. Isn't it just like Yahweh to answer your questions? Now, what I want to do is to break that sentence down in the Hebrew. Again, all this told you is a couple of strange Hebrew names, and that these folks were working to repair something, and it does not go and treat it justly so that I can really understand anything about this Pekudei gate. But the Hebrew does. Y'all ready? You want this? The word after, Strong's number 310. After him, after. The word is akar, and it's rendered the hinder part. That what comes after or behind. Now, I shared with you last night, sometimes this is hard for Western cultures to understand. From a Hebraic perspective, what's behind you is your future. Are you with me? What's in front of you is your past. It's exactly opposite in the Western culture. The enemy has completely turned us upside down. How could that be? Well, Yahweh says, I declared, Isaiah 46:10, I declared the end from the beginning. And so he's basically telling you, I declared the end, your day, the future, from the beginning. And so for me to find out what's happening, then I have to look behind me. Well, what's behind me? The truth of his word. And when you look at this word, achar, that's what it's inferring. what comes after. In other words, even though it's already been written, it's talking about your future. Are y'all getting any of this? The root letters here are the aleph and the kit. They form a little word in Hebrew, and it's the word ach, and it means brother. You're my achi. Achi, my brother. When you attach that resh on the end of it, it looks like an R in the English. When you attach the resh, it infers the head or the chief one. Are you with me? Turn to your neighbor and tell him that's talking about Messiah. So thus, what I call the expanded definition, this word ach, R, the brother, and the resh, it's literally telling you the brother that comes afterward is who this achar word is talking about. That's why the Hebrew language is so powerful. It's picturesque, and it paints a vivid picture of the mind of Yahweh. Just that one word tells you that the chief one, the Messiah, is the one who's coming after. Talk about your future. Are y'all getting this? All right. This individual repaired, and let's look at that word, repaired. It's the word chazak, and of course it means to be bold. It can also mean to be strong. And I shared with you that there's a Hebrew phrase called chazak amenu, and that means be strong, be bold, we stand as one. Turn to your neighbor and tell them, chazak amenu. I mean, we stand as one. Do you understand? Do you realize what I just said? We stand as one. You can say the only way we can stand is as one. If we don't stand as one, we'll fall as one. Do you see that? The root of it is the ket zayin, and it means to see. I'm sure you've heard the word ra'ah, and that word ra'ah means to see, to perceive, but this word's a little bit stronger. Chaz. This word chaz means to see and be observing something happening. In other words, to watch it while it's happening. Are y'all following me? And if you'll notice on the end of the word chazak, you have the Hebrew letter kuf. Now, if you look at me, I'll demonstrate the pictograph of the Hebrew letter kuf. It's the back of the head. You're looking at the back part of the chief one. Now, all of the Hebrew letters, aleph through tav, are talking about the Messiah. When you look at this Hebrew letter kuf, you're looking at the hinder part, what comes behind, and it should immediately carry you back to Exodus chapter 33, verse 23, where Yahweh, Moses has said, show me your glory, and Yahweh says, you can't see my face and live. However, I'll put you in a cleft in the rock, a pierced place, cover you with my hand, and in the process, my glory will pass you by. That you can see. King James English, that's pretty powerful. But if you begin to look in the Hebrew, what's literally telling you here, when he told that he will be able to see it, see, perceive, and understand, but the word ra'ah can also mean something that's being exhibited. And so when Yahweh tells him, you will see my back parts, he said, I'm going to exhibit myself in front of you. You'll see my back parts. In other words, you'll see the hinder part, the one who comes behind, talking about Messiah. Are y'all getting this? What was literally happening as he saw the outline of the form of Messiah, you've heard me share this before, he was literally seeing the back of the man, the spine, and on either side of his spine, the two, I guess you'd call it the fold of either part of his side, with the spine being in the middle. And if you knew how a Torah scroll was made, you'd know that they would take the animal from whence they would get the skin, and they would split it down the spine, cut out a rectangular piece off of both sides. So what was happening when he's walking away, the hinder part that he's seeing a literal Torah scroll. That's the hinder part. So you seeing that? He's seeing the Messiah, the Word that was made flesh. That Torah scroll, the Word of Yahweh, was what was made flesh and walked among us. Can y'all see it? That's why Moses could then go, oh my goodness, and he goes and writes the book of Genesis. Why? Because he saw that it was written, right, that the Word that had spoken into creation walked in front of it, and so Moses is taking dictation. My goodness, this is what it says. In the beginning, there was. In the beginning, Yahweh created the heavens and the earth. Berah. He begins to write all this down. That's why he was literally reading it, taking dictation. That's what's happening. Now, how many How much time do I got? My goodness, you'll have to tune in to track 2 of this CD on the other side. Thanks for listening. Are y'all enjoying yourself? You getting any of it?